Welcome to the world of nightmares, listener of Null Achieve. Tonight, I'll tell you a story about a girl named Annalise, a girl born into a bloodline, cursed with something darker than death itself. But she didn't run. She stood, and what she did next changed everything. How? Listen closely, all the way to the end.
Story 1. There's someone in my attic. You ever come back home after a trip and feel like the air in your place is heavier? Not haunted, not loud, just quiet in a way that feels wrong. That's exactly what Annalise felt that Sunday night. She had just gotten back from a weekend at her mom's place, 2 days away. Nothing special. The sky was dimming as she unlocked her door, tired but kind of relieved to be home. She kicked off her shoes, tossed her bag on the couch, and walked into the kitchen to warm up some leftover pasta. That's when she looked up and froze. The attic door was open. It hung slightly from the ceiling, the ladder not fully down, but enough to show it had been tampered with. She just stared for a second. That door was shut. She knew it was. It was the kind of thing you never open unless you need to. Annalise stood there in total silence. No breeze, no sound, just her heartbeat starting to pound harder. At first, she tried brushing it off. Maybe it just loosened while I was gone, old latch or something, she muttered to herself. But it didn't feel like that. It felt intentional. She grabbed her phone and called her older brother, Kyle. Kyle, I think someone's been in my attic. He paused. Are you in the house right now? Yes, I just walked in. I swear I left it shut. I'm coming over, he said. She waited by the door, keys in hand, just in case she needed to run. Every single noise the house made felt louder. The hum of the fridge, the tick of the wall clock, her own breath. 20 minutes later, Kyle pulled up and walked in with a flashlight and an old baseball bat. They exchanged a look, one that said, "This might be nothing, but what if it's not?" Together, they crept up the stairs. The ladder to the attic was half extended. Kyle pulled it down slowly, climbed halfway up, and shined the flashlight into the darkness. There was no one there. But what they found made Annalise's knees weaken. In the corner of the attic, just behind a beam, was a chair. An old, wooden one, dragged from who knows where. Around it, there were snack wrappers, empty water bottles, a USB charger, and the remains of a sleeping bag. Someone had been living there, recently. Not months ago. Now. Kyle checked every inch of the attic while Annalise stood frozen, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her soul in place. There was more. The person, whoever they were, had drawn on the attic wall with pencil, scribbles, random phrases. But one line stood out. Right above the chair, in small, jagged handwriting, "She sleeps with the hallway light on." Annalise gasped. That wasn't just creepy, it was true. She always kept the hallway light on because the apartment felt too empty at night. That wasn't a coincidence. They called the cops. The investigation confirmed it. Fingerprints all over the attic ladder and the chair. The cops said it was probably a squatter, someone who slipped in weeks ago and stayed quietly, surviving off food and water when she was away. Her bedroom shared a wall with the attic. She had no idea someone was just feet away. The landlord admitted the attic lock hadn't been changed in years. The previous tenant, strangely enough, had vanished one night without explanation. Nobody ever connected the dots, until now. Annalise moved out less than 2 weeks later. She couldn't sleep after that, couldn't be alone. She said the silence in the house wasn't peaceful anymore, it was threatening. And ever since that day, whenever someone tells her you're overthinking it, or it's probably just the wind, she just nods quietly. Because the scariest part, it wasn't that someone had broken in, it's that he had been there the whole time. The Second Apartment, a sequel to There's Someone in My Attic, based on true accounts and inspired reports. After what happened in the attic, Annalise swore off living alone. But after 6 months crashing on her brother's couch and constantly feeling like a burden, she did what most people do. She tried to move on. She found a new place, smaller, second floor, older building, but in a quiet, safe neighborhood. It wasn't anything fancy, but it had character. Vintage wallpaper, old stained glass panels in the windows, and those creaky hardwood floors that echoed even your lightest step. The landlord was an old woman named Mrs. Calder, polite but strangely distant. She never looked Annalise directly in the eye, always seemed distracted. The day she moved in, Mrs. Calder gave one weird warning. Don't leave the windows open after dark. That was it. No explanation, no smile, just that one sentence. Annalise laughed it off, thought maybe it was about bugs or maybe raccoons in the area. She didn't ask, she just wanted to start fresh. But she noticed things right away. Not huge things. First night, the air felt heavy. Not warm, not cold, just weighed down like the space itself was pressing in around her. She chalked it up to trauma from the last apartment, but the next night it started. It was just past midnight. She was dozing off when she heard it. Whispers. Not voices, not full words, just movement like a radio tuned between stations. She sat up in bed, silence. Then, faintly, again, a whisper from the corner of the room. She turned on the lamp, nothing there. But the closet door, it was open just slightly, and she always kept it shut. She got up, shut it again, laughed nervously to herself, and left the light on. She didn't sleep much that night. The next day, she told herself she was overthinking it. Maybe she didn't close the closet all the way. Maybe she was just spooked. But that night, the whispers came back, louder this time, closer. And when she looked into the mirror across from her bed, she saw movement behind her. She spun around. No one there. But the closet door? Open again. She started keeping a notebook, writing down each incident, date, time, what happened. Within 5 days, the entries became terrifying. Something whispered my name. Found scratches on the closet wall. Heard breathing right behind me. Smelled dirt. Rotten, wet dirt. Woke up and my legs were muddy. Yeah, muddy. Like she had walked through wet soil in her sleep. But she hadn't left the bed. One night, she decided to record audio while she slept. Just her phone on a voice app left on the nightstand. The next morning, she played it back. Most of it was quiet. Until 3:47 a.m., there was a click, then footsteps. Then this deep, inhuman voice that whispered, "She doesn't belong here." Her hands were shaking as she replayed it over and over. She sent it to Kyle. He drove to her place that afternoon, pale as a ghost after hearing it. They decided to do some digging. Mrs. Calder, she wasn't just the landlord. She used to live in that apartment with her husband and their son. But her son died in that room, fell from the second floor. Rumors say it wasn't an accident. Some neighbors believed the husband had pushed him. Others whispered that the boy had jumped, that he said something was calling him from outside, that he was afraid to sleep, afraid of the closet. After the funeral, Mrs. Calder moved to the unit next door, rented this one out for years. Tenants never stayed longer than a few weeks. Annalise was the longest so far. When she confronted Mrs. Calder, the old woman didn't deny it. She just said, "I told you, don't leave the windows open after dark." That night, Annalise packed. But before she left, she did one last thing. She opened the closet door, and she saw it. A child's drawing, stuck to the back wall like it had been there for years. Crayons scratched into the drywall. A little boy with X's for eyes. A woman sleeping in a bed. And a dark shape standing beside her. She took a photo. Then she ran. She never went back. And to this day, she says the scariest thing wasn't what she saw. It was what the drawing said at the bottom. "I'm not the only one in the closet." The origin of silence. After fleeing her second apartment, Annalise didn't move in with friends. She didn't go to a hotel. She drove for hours, not even knowing where she was going, until she found herself in a sleepy coastal town, nestled between cliffs and fog. There was an old guest house there, no sign, just a wooden gate, a dim porch light, and a woman who looked like she hadn't blinked in decades. "You're tired," the woman said before Annalise even spoke. "You're haunted." Annalise was too exhausted to ask how she knew. She just nodded and accepted the key. That night, she didn't sleep, because sleep didn't feel safe anymore. At exactly 3:47 a.m., the same time the whispers had started in her last apartment, she heard it again. But not from the closet, not from the walls. This time, it came from inside her mind. A voice, low and layered, echoing through her consciousness like water dripping through stone. "You've seen the door, now open it." She bolted upright. No closet in this room, no mirror, no attic above. But the air was different, still, pressurized, like the calm before a hurricane. Annalise grabbed her journal and flipped through the pages of every incident, every whisper, every shadow she'd ever documented. And then she saw it, a pattern. Every time she moved, the darkness followed. But not just the events, the timing. 3:47 a.m. always. She began researching obsessively. Online forums, occult database, even contacting paranormal researchers under fake names. And she found something, a case file from 1972. A young woman, same symptoms, shadow figures, whispers, same time of night. That woman's name was Amelia Ellis, her grandmother. She had never told anyone. The woman had vanished without a trace. No body, no note, nothing. But Annalise looked at the file, at the photo of Amelia, and her blood froze. She looked exactly like Annalise. Same eyes, same hair, even the same birthmark on the collarbone. Suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't a haunting. It was a lineage. Something had latched onto her family. Something ancient. Something that didn't haunt houses. It haunted blood. Passed down through generations. But it only awakened in one person per bloodline. Always a woman, always at the same age, 26. That's when Amelia disappeared. That's when the first closet opened for Annalise. It was never about the attic or the apartment. Those were just vessels, echo chambers for something older. The doors she saw in her dreams, the whispers, the dirt beneath her feet, they were signs of invitation. It was coming through her, feeding on fear, learning to exist in her world. Every whisper, every breath she felt that wasn't hers, it was building. And it was almost done. Annalise ran, not to escape, but to face it. She went back to the first apartment, the one with the attic, empty now for rent, the lock unchanged. She climbed into the attic one last time, and there, where the chair had once been, stood a mirror. Cracked, ancient, not hers. And in the reflection, she didn't see herself. She saw a child, pale, watching her. Behind him, the dark shape, the same one from the drawing. And this time, it spoke aloud. "You are the doorway." The doorway in the dark, treat Annalise. Annalise stood in front of the attic mirror, her breath fogging the broken glass, heart hammering like thunder in a bottle. That child, the reflection, the voice, it said, "You are the doorway." She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stared. And in that moment, the attic changed. The temperature dropped instantly. Every shadow in the room grew longer. The air, it buzzed like 1,000 flies trapped inside her skull. And then, the mirror blinked. Not her reflection. The mirror itself blinked, like a living eye of glass. She staggered back. Then the floor beneath her groaned, not from weight, but from pressure, like something was pushing upward, trying to crawl through. Suddenly, bang! The attic door slammed shut. The light bulb exploded. Everything went dark. But she wasn't alone. From the corner of the attic, a deep, wet breath rasped out. And then a voice, not the child's, not the one from the closet, but something ancient and cracked with age spoke. "We chose her, as we chose the ones before." Annalise tried to back up, but her body wasn't listening anymore. Her muscles were frozen, locked in place like stone. Her lips moved, but no words came out. The voice grew louder, wrapping around her like vines in her throat. She is the echo, the last heir. She remembers without remembering. And then, it showed her. The attic melted away, not physically, but inside her mind. She saw Amelia Ellis, her grandmother, being dragged by invisible hands through a door made of shadows, screaming, scratching at the wood, the same attic. Then her great-grandmother, same place, same age. Faces she'd only seen in old photographs, now contorted in silent agony. And then, a baby, held by something not human. It had no face, just a smooth, wet head like porcelain melted over bone. It whispered into the baby's ear. And that baby, it was her. She woke up on the floor of the attic, coughing dirt, literal dirt, packed under her fingernails, in her hair. A symbol had been carved onto the wall with what looked like fingernails. A circle split by a vertical line and 3 dots at the top. She didn't know what it meant. Not yet. She stumbled out of the building, barefoot, bleeding, barely remembering how she even got outside. But she wasn't free. That night, back at a motel, she dreamt again. She was underground, walking through a hallway of doors. Each one had a name carved in the wood. Her mother, her grandmother, her aunt, all women. And then she reached the last door. No name, just the symbol. The door swung open before she touched it, and behind it, there was nothing. Not darkness, nothingness. A void so empty it had weight, the kind of silence that hums louder than any sound. And from that nothing it emerged. It wasn't a demon, it wasn't a ghost, it was a memory that had never belonged to her, implanted into her bloodline like a seed, waiting to bloom. "We feed on anchors," it said. "You are the last. Once you open, the rest will follow." She awoke screaming. The motel room was flooded with water, but no pipes had burst. It was salt water. She ran. She ran until her legs gave out. She didn't know where she was going. She just had to stay awake, stay away from doors, from mirrors, from sleep. Weeks passed. She stopped seeing her reflection, stopped dreaming. And then, one final time, she returned to the attic. Not to fight, not to banish it, but to face the truth. She walked into the mirror. This time, it let her in. Inside was the void, but in the center, suspended in nothing, were hundreds of others like her, floating, eyes wide open, trapped. Each one was a doorway. And Annalise? She was the last one still breathing, the last one who could choose. The entity circled her. "Join them." She looked at it, shaking, crying, then said the only word that could close the lineage forever: "No." And with that, the mirror shattered from the inside. The attic caught fire, and Annalise was never found again. But every year, on the anniversary of the fire, a girl is seen standing near the ruins. Same hair, same eyes, same silence, and she's always staring into a mirror, waiting for the next doorway. When silence remembers. The final chapter of Annalise. It's been exactly 6 years since the fire consumed the building where Annalise was last seen. No body was recovered, no remains, not even ashes, just melted glass, cracked floorboards, and one unburnt mirror. Standing, intact, untouched, the same mirror that once showed her what no one else could see. But this isn't about the fire, or the attic, or even Annalise anymore. This is about the thing that followed her, the reason the darkness always came back. In the days after her disappearance, police tried to piece together her life. They found journal pages burned at the edges, soaked with seawater, drawings of doors, symbols etched in what looked like bone dust. No one could make sense of it. But we know we were there. Not physically, not then. But we've been watching, just like it watched her. You see, Annalise was never the first. She was the last key in a chain of women marked across generations, each one born into silence, hearing voices they were never meant to hear. It started with Amelia Ellis, the grandmother. Her disappearance wasn't random. She was the first to dream of the mirror, the first to walk the halls beneath reality. Then came her daughter, and then Annalise. Each woman carried a fragment, like a sliver of a forgotten curse. Alone, they couldn't break the cycle. But Annalise, she remembered what they couldn't. Not through memory, through blood. That's why it followed her from apartment to apartment. That's why every time she moved, the shadows came too. It wasn't the house that was haunted. She was the haunting. Every time the clock struck 3:47 a.m., the entity took another piece. First a whisper, then a shadow, then a memory, until she couldn't tell if she was awake anymore. And when she entered the mirror in that attic, when she chose to walk into the void, it wasn't surrender. It was a trap she set for the entity. She'd learned something the others hadn't, that the darkness needed doors. And if she became the final one, if she broke herself down and entered the source, she could close it from the inside. And that's what she did. She wandered those endless halls, the hallways of forgotten ancestors, locked in their reflections, and she spoke their names, one by one, like a prayer, like a key. And as she did, the faces in the mirrors began to remember. They cried, they screamed, they breathed again. And then they shattered, each one, fragments of memory raining into nothingness, until only one mirror remained, hers. She faced it, and behind the glass it waited, not a monster, not a demon, but a hollow shape, shaped like her, a perfect mimic, emotionless, waiting to replace her. It reached out, hand against the glass, and for a moment they stared at each other. Then Annalise smiled, the real her, pale, but smiling, because she had figured out its final weakness. It couldn't create doorways. It could only use what humans left open. So she whispered a final word into the silence, close. And the mirror imploded inward, dragging everything with it. The entity, the mimic, the echoes, the whispers, the child in the mirror. The attic, the house, all of it, gone, like it never existed. And yet, sometimes, just sometimes, in quiet homes at exactly 3:47 a.m., people hear footsteps, slow, careful, soft. And if they check their mirrors, their reflection lingers 1 second longer than they do. It's not the entity anymore. It's not evil, it's her. Annalise, not dead, not gone, just watching from the other side, making sure no new door opens, because she made a promise, and the silence remembers.
Thank you for your patience, dear listeners. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe for more. In the description below, you'll find an email address. Feel free to send me your scariest experiences.